So yeah, yesterday we started. We did part one. We spoke about the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and today we're going to analyze it a little further. So we know that on Sunday, President Trump and JD Vance actually signed the MOU. They signed it. Also, the Iranian representative. And they're going to formally sign it on Friday, this coming Friday, in Switzerland, in a luxurious hotel, and everything will be paid by Qatar. Justin, do you want to start?
Well, first, let me greet everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. And then I think it's crazy to even imagine that after everything that's happened, that, like you said, we're going to go on Friday. We're going to be sitting down to sign this deal, and it's sponsored by, or everything's been seen to by, a country like Qatar, where Qatar tried to be a mediator, with Hamas, and it's obviously got conflict of interest because it's related to Iran and Pakistan and all these bad actors. So it's really interesting. I think if we really go into this whole deal, we see that there's so many things up in the air at the moment. We don't really know where exactly we're headed at this stage.
One thing is clear, that up until a few weeks ago, when the Americans wanted to talk about what's going on in Iran, they referred to it as the regime or the RGC. Now the terminology, if you've noticed, has changed. They keep referring to the Iranians.
Well, I think the narrative has burst. The bubble has burst.
Good point, Tom. Good point.
So you had the narrative that was, it is a super important point. You had the narrative that was saying free Iran. You had MIGA, make Iran great again. And now we see the Iranians, they had the 12-day war where the United States and Israel bombed. The people called for them to come to the streets. They didn't. They said to the Americans and to the Israelis, if you would just remove Khamenei for us, then we will go to the street and do what is necessary. And that took place between Israel and America, predominantly Israel. They removed Khamenei and his whole echelon of people, and the Iranians sat still and did nothing. So that narrative has completely burst. And I think that it's actually quite shocking that there's still Iranians that are trying to still hold on to the flag, so to say, of saying, we're not like this, we want to change. But then again, that voice doesn't come from within inside Iran. It comes predominantly from the diaspora. And that's, again, that I think that says it all.
One needs to understand and really think that those so-called Iranians in the diaspora, some of them are not really Iranians. I know of one who kept saying that he was in Iran, but he turns out to be in Armenia. Who is behind them? Who is behind them? Who is paying them? Because it's obviously that Pahlavi himself is a Muslim. It's obvious that ever since 1979, there have been 2 generations of Islam in Iran. It's obvious that these people, even that they were deprived of their bare necessities like water, electricity, and oil and gas, they didn't do a thing. So let's say 2% are against the regime, or they're against the government. It's not enough. Most of them still chant death to Israel, death to America. So the way I see it, they want it, they like it, they're anti-Semite. They chose it. They chose. So I said again, take a look at the news. They're being referred to as the Iranians, no longer the IRGC. And I think Trump understood it very well that day when he saw people on the bridge. He saw children and women on the bridge. So that was the way of the Iranians, the regime, to tell them, hey, people want us. Now, about this MOU, like we said yesterday, we only know part of it. So what we really think that it's clear, it's not really clear. The memorandum, as far as the Americans see it, is different. The memorandum, as far as the Iranians see it, is really different. The Americans, we read yesterday, was about the nuclear file, the enriched uranium, the ballistic missiles. The Iranians are more, they want more the unfreezing of their assets. You know why? Because it gives them more money, more funds to buy more weapons, and also the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. What do you think about this so far?
Okay, so you mentioned that so they call it the gold standard. So the gold standard for Trump and for the American side is basically no enrichment, no centrifuges, inspections, and ballistic missile issue. And like you mentioned, but the main thing about this to note is that have we not been here before? You know, if you think back to the JCPOA agreement, the JCPOA agreement basically was for the exact same things. So I think that as far as the Iranian side goes, you know, the Iranians, again, their side has got to do with releasing of funds, freeing up their economy. I would be interested to hear if the sanction side of it is included as well, because if you think back when before the war sort of became hot directly between Israel and Iran, there was the maximum pressure campaign on Iran with the sanctions, and that really damaged the Iranian economy severely. I mean, the Iranian currency just absolutely plummeted, and you would have thought at that stage that the Iranians would have actually done something, and yet they didn't. But in this case, at the moment, the freeing up of funds, like you said, it just allows them to basically recover and recover rapidly. So, like we mentioned in the last episode, Iran has already gone to Qatar and in negotiation with them to basically connect the electrical grid to Qatar, and basically with the funds, with the electrical grid, all this type of stuff. It doesn't serve the population, so to say, as much as it serves those in power and being able to maintain and control power. And then as far as the Strait of Hormuz goes, you know, they say that the strait will open, but already headlines saying that the world now understands that because of that geography, Iran can basically close the strait at any time if it chooses to do so, and it doesn't need to employ any asymmetrical warfare or anything to do that. It simply has to broadcast a message to say that the waters are not safe, and the markets will react, the shipping companies will react, and the insurance companies will react. So Iran maintains an extreme amount of leverage in this, in comparison to the Americans, which are basically bringing the same agreement or the same angle to the agreement, whereas the Iranians basically are going to receive a free hand here. They have the funds released, they have the economy reinvigorated, their military is going to be reinvigorated, and then they still maintain control and say so over the 20% at least of the global oil.
I have a question. Why do they need to have an MOU? Can't they just speak like they've spoken for months and months?
Well, it's a strange one because it's exactly that. Didn't Trump say recently that all negotiations taking place would be done so under fire? There would be no pause, there would be no let up, and they would basically do everything that they're doing at the table will be done while the hot side of the war is basically happening or unfolding. And I think that was probably the right way to do things. But I don't know whether the pause is sort of, for the Iranians, it's definitely a strategic pause. For the Americans, whether it's a strategic pause or whether it's a political pause, I think we're still going to see that. I think that I think the closer we get to midterms in America, we will understand if it was for politics or if it was a strategic move.
Yes, Bobby.
And so President Trump issued a statement today on his Truth Social site saying that, of course, he's at the G7 summit right now, and he's supposed to give a press conference here momentarily. But what he said earlier was that he's going to have dinner with President Macron of France, and then he's going to return home. So does that mean that he's going to return home without going to Switzerland and signing the MOU? Yes, Justin.
Well, Poppy, like Arm alluded to at the beginning of this, it has been mentioned already that the agreement was digitally signed. So Trump's administration has already digitally signed the document from the American side, and I believe that the deputy foreign minister, I might be wrong, I believe it's the deputy foreign minister, but Galibaf, I think he's also digitally signed the Iranian document. But whether there's a match between the Iranian document and the US document, people need to remember that even if there is an agreement, so to say, on the actual MOU that stands now, that it's not binding. It's a non-binding document. It basically, all it does is they come to the table, they sign that a 60-day technical period will commence, and they will begin to work out what the framework will be for further talks to achieve a deal down the line. So it's basically like what Arm was saying. Why do you need an MOU to do that? Why do you need an MOU to talk about talks? And this is what the Iranians, they love this. They keep on doing it over and over and over to the United States.
Okay, so it's a stalling technique. Is that what your estimation is? Because we've wasted now how much time? A week and a half, 2 weeks, talking about this MOU, and it's all under wraps. And Trump also said that the MOU that's circulating currently is not the actual wording or the actual MOU. And so that's, we've all been all over spaces, talking amongst ourselves, talking to our families. What does this mean? What's happening? What's the wording? And when things like that are held in secrecy, you're automatically suspicious that it's not good. It's not in your best interest. And so that's sort of a mystery to me, although I know it's not, that's not the proper way to go about doing things. You don't keep that a secret. It's like these stupid 1,000-page bills that Congress passes, and they vote on it, but no one's read the bill. And not that long ago, a senator or congressman in the U.S. actually said, "Well, you have to pass the bill to read the bill." They did this stalling technique similar to this. They released it at the last minute, and then nobody had time to read it. And so it does look like a stalling technique. And President Trump was also talking today on his Truth Social about how great our economy is, how the price of oil is falling through the floor, that it's boom times. There's never been a greater, higher level of employment in the U.S. and all that. And so, don't forget the outside factors that are influencing him. And yeah, it's and earlier we were speaking about leadership in the U.S. And I had a history professor who said the leadership of a nation reflects the entire society as a whole. And so the people that we see going into leadership, like it or not, are a reflection of the society of the United States.
Reminds me of a family folklore story. My uncle was having a meeting with an Indian and a Pakistani in London. And this thing went on and on and on. Whatever the Indian said, the Pakistani disagreed, and whatever the Pakistani said, the Indian disagreed. This was a business meeting. Eventually, my uncle exploded both of them. He told them to fuck off India and Pakistan and kick them out. These are different people. Different people.
Yes, so like we said, we don't know what's actually written in the MOU. I wonder if there is one or two. My guess there are two different ones because we know the Iranians, they lie. But we know, I was watching a show today, program, they were talking about the agreement. We know that the Iranians said that if we attack in Lebanon, which I think it's a mistake, why should we even be included in an agreement between US and Iran? Israel is here. Israel is going to do whatever it can to exist because we will be here, this is it. So, and we have the right to exist. So what the Iranians are doing, they're trying to put a wedge between the US and Israel, if you look at the things going, because they write on their agreement, what they're saying, that if they want to include Israel in the agreement, and it goes like this: if Israel attacks in Lebanon, so this is a violation of the contract, of the agreement. Now, of course, we're going to attack back if something happens to us, to the north of Israel. So I don't think that we should actually, by the way, I said yesterday, I'm saying it again, Israel wanted to look at the contract, at the agreement. We were not allowed to. So that tells you something.
That's a super important point. The fact that the Iranians are playing a master game there again, in the fact that they know that Israel has not been party to the documents, to the memorandum of understandings, or like some people are actually starting to call it the memorandum of misunderstanding. And there is a misunderstanding. There's a misunderstanding between what Iran perceives Israel in this whole situation, and then there's a misunderstanding how America sort of works together with Israel and tries to cut a deal, or to at least begin a framework towards a deal with Iran, in the sense that, like you mentioned, Iran has got this weird clause that the Hezbollah is going to basically attack, because we know it will happen. The Hezbollah will attack in the north. Israel is going to be obviously holding territory there. This is what Netanyahu said, that Israel will not withdraw from Lebanon until the situation is stable. And in order to protect their civilians, innocent civilians in the north, and then Israel will respond, which is the absolute correct thing to do. Iran will not deal with Israel. Iran will run to the United States and then say, this is a violation by your ally, Israel, and you need to rein Israel in. And this, again, it puts Israel at a, almost like a, I hate to say it, but it's almost like a, trying to get the word now, like a vassal state. It places Israel as like a vassal state to the United States. And this is not the case. Israel is a sovereign country. It controls its own decision and its own path. And if the Americans don't sort of rein this in at this point, you can already see that this is coming. And like you said correctly, the Iranians already trying to position that wedge so that when the day comes, they will create that rift between the United States and United States and Israel. And that will affect the population back in America. It's not so much, the messaging of that is not so much for the rest of the world as much as it is for the local consumption in America, because you're going to create an undertone in America of, you see, Israel is bad, Israel is the one that is preventing deals, Trump is trying his best to try to stabilize world markets, trying to bring the world to a sort of peaceful situation. And Israel is basically putting a stick in the spokes. And that's totally not the truth. And I think that awesome to call this out, in public now and get the public debate happening around this so that people can be aware of the fact that this is just how the Iranians operate. They are, like I said, they're masters at deception, and they have the old Islamic tactic, which is basically divide and conquer. And there needs to be no division between America and Israel on this matter. And that's why I'm saying it's quite strange that Israel hasn't been included in the understandings, or at least shown what are the Americans basically preparing on the table.
I don't think it's that Iran is the master player here. It's that Trump is the master idiot. They're just sitting back and watching what their enemy is doing to himself. They're doing nothing. They're just enjoying the spectacle. And I can't get around my mind around this thing that he's negotiating Israel away with his deal. Who does this? I mean, what logic is this? What logic is this? What are we playing here? And do you know what Hezbollah is, what Lebanon is, which is the majority now in Lebanon, is the Shia. Hezbollah is the Shia population. That's all it is. Hezbollah is the Shia population, just like the Iranian mullahs are the Iranian population and the Iraqi population of Shias.
Mhm.
That's who they are.
Ram,
There is no Lebanon.
you were talking about Lebanon. The president of Lebanon, Christian, okay, he said today that they're willing to accept anybody who helps them, including Iran. So that says a lot.
There is no Lebanon.
Well, again, this is the thing, that you mentioned. But if I can just maybe put this as a caveat to this, and I find this also as an interesting dynamic, and that is when this deal was proposed to Trump, or to President Trump, should I say, you had Jared Kushner, you had Steve Witkoff, and you had J.D. Vance, who were all in favor of the deal. And you had Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and you had the CIA intelligence basically saying, that US intelligence says that this is a dead-end street. This is not the way to go. So you had basically Kushner on the one side with Witkoff and J.D. Vance as this supposed or so-called briefcase of money. And then you had the military and intelligence side and sort of foreign ministry position through Rubio and Hegseth and
The CIA, the U.S.
the
intelligence,
CIA.
where they actually warned President Trump. They said that the Iranians are deceiving in order to survive.
100%. 100%. So, I find it interesting. You have this dynamic. You have like a money bags on the one side, and then you have this military advice on the other. And the military, during a wartime, you have the military advice and your foreign policy speaking loud and clear, saying this is a bad move. And you have the money bag side saying we can make negotiations, or we can negotiate a position of power, which is no position at all. And we can attain a document that doesn't even state that anything is binding, a document that is basically a blank check, and a document that says that we may possibly, there's some people in opposition to this, they say it's not really the JCPOA 2.0, but in my own estimation, I would basically call it JCPOA 2.0 simply because it basically deals with the same issues, the nuclear, the ballistic missiles. These were things all along. Not that I was in favor of the original JCPOA, but you've got to wonder to yourself, already there's mention of like 300 billion in unfreezing of funds that are due to Iran. And like we mentioned that in the first episode, it's double what was given under the Obama administration to Iran. So are we heading down that road again? Because we know that the Iranians, when it comes to centrifuges and enriching and facilities, and then having inspectors, and then they say to the inspectors, we will tell you when you can inspect, which facilities you can inspect. The Iranians turn off cameras in some of these facilities. And we're basically back to square one. We're back to like 2013, 2014. So we're really going backwards here. We're not going forwards. And we're doing that on the back of a blank check, which is just ludicrous.
I'm trying to think out loud because today President Trump was talking to the Egyptian President Sisi, and he said to him that if the results of
Oh God.
the talk, yes, they spoke today, and he said, and I quote, that if the results are not going to be to his liking, so they will come back and attack. They will bomb Iran. I think he doesn't want to attack, because if he wanted, he would have done it weeks ago. He just basically threatening because he wants Iran to come to the table. So it's like a false sense of win-win. To Americans, Trump will have his way, therefore he will not have boots on the ground. The oil will flow again, because he's a businessman. And the Iranians, they're going to have enough time to rearm. That's what they're doing now, is even as we speak, they're rearming themselves. They're buying weapons from China, Russia. They're delivering through convoys. They're delivering from Iran to Syria and then to the Hezbollah weapons. Even the Russians are having a humanitarian aid, so-called, to Lebanon. But the point is, it's not really a win-win. It's not a win to anybody but to Iran.
This is uniquely Trump. This is Trump world. This is how he operates. Confusion. Nobody knows what's going on. I'm so not of this world. I don't. Everything he does, he's like, he's this way. He confuses. It's chaos. Trump world is chaos. Chaos. Nobody knows what's going on.
Well,
And
50%.
I'm sitting here trying to understand this fucking mentality. What does it
Ram,
got to do with my life?
no, but Ram, maybe 50%. We still have to, to wonder if 50% there's a possibility that he's playing a game because he wants to buy time. Don't forget, it's not easy.
I am not playing this fucking game with this guy. I'm not. I'm out of it.
I'm the same. If I were him, it was better for him not to go to this epic fury and call it operation. I would call it a war, because it is a war. It is a war. Now, do you know who Tzvi Yechezkel is? Guys, do you know?
He's an awesome person. He's really very, very clued up on the matter or the issue of Islam. I think you can maybe explain to the listeners because he's Israeli. He's right there, and
he is an analyst. He knows a lot about the Middle East. He speaks Arabic fluently. He has shows on TV on I-24 News. Let's call it Arabistim. And he managed to infiltrate mosques all over the world, disguised as a sheikh. A different identity. He actually has the series on YouTube, and he knows Islam. He's the one, if you remember, that spoke with Tommy Robinson when Tommy Robinson was in Israel. So I'm going to read to you what he said about the agreement. A second, let me go to it. Yep. He's frustrated with the situation in the Middle East, and he's saying, he criticizes President Trump, quote, a shocking document of Trump-style collusion by and run by the Iranian regime that continues to blackmail. That's what he writes. And then he added on the subject of Lebanon, quote, an arena that the Iranians managed to bring into the agreement and into the equation, even though they never had leverage there. And of course, the spirit of the agreement as it is perceived in the neighborhood. Whoever pays is the one who apologizes. Whoever pays is the unjust. In our neighborhood, whoever is right receives all the benefits from the agreement. He continued to claim that Trump simply does not understand the Middle East. And I'm quoting, you don't have to be great Orientalist to understand that the bazaar culture, bazaar is a Muslim word, like a big market. So that the bazaar culture has defeated the hasty cowboy from America. We can only hope that this will turn out to be another of Trump's declarations that didn't come to fruition. Maybe he's just lulling us here and does not really mean it. It is possible that this is another project of his that is similar to the stories of Gaza and dreams of the Riviera that went down the drain. And the details may not be accurate, but as of this moment, this is a very, very serious blow to Israel, deterrence, and its strength in the region. So that's what he's saying. And this is a guy who knows Islam. He knows the Middle East. He's an expert. What do you think?
So, okay, thank you. So, I just want to also set the record straight. I've already said that Iran basically are masters in the deception and that they have a lot of leverage. Let me backtrack a little bit and bring some balance to what I said. So, based on what Svi said, is that Israel is the one that was basically damaged in this, and that it's a major blow to Israel. But everything is about perception. And if you look at what the perception is in actual fact, like we mentioned in the first episode, Israel is actually doing extremely remarkable considering the war. They have incredible GDP. They have rated as one of the happiest countries in the world, top 10 happiest countries in the world. They have incredible, all the companies. I mean, you've got massive companies, Intel, Microsoft, all these companies that are investing very heavily into Israel. And the currency is performing extremely well, which is really awesome. And then perception, although I said that Iran has a lot of leverage in this, it's perceived leverage, because in reality, sure, they do hold the strait. It is geographically theirs, so they do pose a threat there. But let's look at this in reality. Their economy is non-existent. They have no water. They have in many places, no basic means. They are very badly damaged, trying to reach out to rebuild proxy groups that they had spent almost 40 years building, which have also been very, very badly damaged, some of them almost to the point of non-existence. And, so there is this balance that must be put into the story, and that is, it's about perception. And Iran is trying to sell the perception that they have the absolute hand in this calculation, in this situation, and that Israel and America have got no standing, or that they have nothing to bring to the table. And let's go back to what you said on that there's a possibility of 50-50. And let's say if the Iranians do default, if they do violate the agreement, which is going to happen, it's going to happen, then Trump said that he would go back to bombing Iran, and they on the path back to war. And I think that this is an estimation by a lot of people, is that even though this is agreement, or that this is a framework for an agreement that is being presented, that the ultimate path to this is basically back to kinetic action. And having said that, it's not going to be Israel that is going to be the one that is going to be damaged in this. It will only further damage Iran, and it will damage Iran's proxies even further. So whether Trump is doing this as a ploy, like I mentioned before, whether this is a political move or whether this is a strategic move, I don't think that you can really know at this stage. But I think that what Spia Skelly was saying about a bad deal and a blow to Israel, yes, sure. At this, the perception of it looks bad at this stage, and there is certainly very bad details, like not being included, not being able to see what is being described in the agreement, and also the inclusion of Lebanon restraining Israel and potential divisions that will be upcoming. But I have no doubt that Israel is going to do what is right for Israel, and that even if Trump tries to respond, at the end of the day, I think then he would be putting himself in a very, very difficult position. And he has to understand this. I mean, I cannot imagine that the leader of the free world does not understand that Hezbollah is going to shoot. He's going to get a phone call from Israel saying that we're under attack. We have to respond. And he's going to turn around and say, you know, you can't do this because we need to maintain a deal. Even though this has been done, I don't think it can continue being done for months on end before Trump is going to have to, again, maybe live up to his words today that he said, where he said, if Iran is a bad actor, they've been acting poorly for 47 years, and if they do something wrong again, the bombs are going to fall. So I think we're in that sort of loop at the moment. Ram, I don't know, how do you see this?
The craziness tells me either Trump is being blackmailed or he's being threatened imminently, or him and his family, or there's something to it. This is too nuts, too crazy. The recklessness here indicates to me that there's something going on other than what we're saying, because of the way he's behaving, his words, his actions. In what world does it make sense? In what world does it make sense other than what I'm saying? He's probably being blackmailed, or he's being imminently threatened, him or his family. I think that may be something there. Anything else? The deal, I have no opinion about. I'm not going to dabble in this craziness, madness. I'm not going to think about it even.
Well, again, I think we're gonna wait and see. We're gonna see on Friday. There's going to be obviously the pomp and ceremony, and there's going to be the selling of the deal, and America is going to sell. You know, Trump is going to sell the story back home. You know, that we've basically sort of brought stability to the oil market. There's no more bombs flying. American soldiers are not going to be in the region, and that you know, it's going to bring some sort of peace, and I say peace very loosely, peace to Israel and its neighborhood. And we know that's not the case. That's not going to happen.
I just laughed.
I saw that, and I would also laugh, to be honest. If it wasn't so sad, you have to laugh.
The fact that the Iranians want to include Israel not doing anything in Lebanon is because they want to reestablish their position in the Middle East. They want to basically tie our hands, and they will not have it. No paper, even if it's with the states, it's not binding to Israel. And
thank goodness for that.
No, Trump needs to understand that. This is it. He says America first. I say Israel first.
In total agreement with that. You know, like I said, Israel is not a vassal state. Israel is a sovereign state. It determines its own future. It doesn't need another nation to determine its future for it.
I'm
And
offended.
I'm
offended. I'm really supremely offended. I think I'm not the only one. I think a lot of American people are offended by this, that he would do this to Israel. I'm offended beyond anything that's I've ever experienced before. This is too much. It's too much. You know what? I'm gonna bow out. I'm going to buy it. Thanks, thanks, Justin.
Oh, thank you, Ram.
It's too much. It's too much for the Americans.
It is too much. Yeah, it is. But we said there's 50-50 chance, 50-50% chances that Trump is playing a game.
It's all about
No
cloak
one.
and daggers in war.
Mm-hmm. No, but the fact that CIA and the intelligence and Hegseth and Rubio warned him says a lot, and he hasn't listened.
Well, again, like you said, he's a businessman, and I think he's a little bit more politician this time around in his second term. And the money talks. They're saying money talks, and I think that he's chosen the money side of it, which believes that they can purchase peace through a document, and you can't purchase peace through a document. It's never happened. They say they look at, and they refer to Egypt, and they say look at the peace agreement between Egypt and Israel, or Jordan and Israel, but these are cold agreements. They're not. There's no serious peace there. It's basically temporary. It's hidden behind a veil, so to say.
Yeah. So we just have to wait and see. Will you be watching the signing of the agreement?
I will definitely be watching it. I want to see the body language of the people, and who is present, and which representatives will be sent from Iran, if there will be, what sort of level of representation will be sent. Because remember something, there's still multiple groups fighting for this in Iran. You have I know that you mentioned the narrative has dropped and that it's all Iranians now and no longer just the IRGC, but you do have the hardline IRGC right, and then you have the political side of it in Iran, and it's the political arm under Ghalibaf and Masoud Pezeshkian who want to talk with Trump, and then you've got the IRGC who are saying that we don't talk to them, we shout death to America, even though I'm not making a distinction and saying that there's good here. Make no mistake about it. Iran is Iran is Iran. That whole situation screams out death to America, death to Israel. But there are different groups vying for power, and there's a power play happening there as to who's going to be in charge to basically be the flag bearers of that message, death to America and death to Israel. And I think that
they're all together, Justin. You have to understand.
they're all together.
They're all together.
Well, you say all together but let's broaden that and say who's all together. Who's all together is the anti-Western axis: Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan, Iran, Qatar, Turkey, Syria. There's a major axis.
I want to talk about something very important. Abraham Accords.
It's a big deal in this as well, yes.
Yeah, the Abraham Accords, it's Oslo 2.0, so to speak. It's a bad thing. Because they will never, Trump is hoping that by having peace with Iran, so Saudis are going to sign this Abraham Accords. They will never do that. Not in a million years. And this is what I joke about it, because leaders are so dumb. Muslims will never acknowledge Israel in its sovereignty. Never. We know that because a few weeks ago, the Saudis said we will not. I remember that even Trump said he wanted the Saudis to sign the Abraham Accords. And then they returned and they said that they will not do this because, the Gazans are suffering. So they want the Gazans to have their own country. So it's like everyone has conditions, puts condition on condition on condition. And this is on our backs, so to speak. I would like to see the Gazans get out of Gaza, because Gaza belongs to Israel. Gaza was one of the Philistine cities that the Hebrews conquered. So those Fakistinians don't even have any connection to the land of Israel, if we speak about it. They're either Jordanians or Egyptians. Most of the surnames there are Al-Masri. That means the Egyptians. That's the surname there in Gaza. So they have false narrative. Even Mossab, okay, he knows. Go and check his YouTube account. He talked about it so many times. Those are fake people. And if Trump had his plan, remember last year had a beautiful plan, deport them, make a Gaza Riviera because it's beautiful. What you saw on my post yesterday, the beach. So Gaza is a continuation of our beach. It's beautiful. And the Fakistine,
It's absolutely magnificent.
it is a beautiful place. But they basically, they used to live like cockroach. This is it. That's Islam. You have to understand. It's dirt. It's evil. Violence. So I would like to see Gaza being cleaned out of these people. Everybody there is a terrorist. They all took part on October 7th. By the way, remember 2005 when we gave them a piece of our land, hoping that there's going to be peace, remember? So
The Gaza disengagement, yes, of 2005, yes.
yes. So those children there in Gaza back then in 2005, they are the same ones who were that terrorists that basically came into Israel and they slaughtered and they murdered and they beheaded people. The same people.
That's the truth. Again, they have children and they raise their children not to love life, not to respect life, but to become murderers. And it's actually insane to think that there's people that talk about sort of you could re-educate people like that. The reason why it's laughable is because even if you put them in a Western society and said to them, you must respect Israel in its entirety, you must respect that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel, of an ancient people going back over 3,750 years. And even if you did that for an entire generation, so in the daytime, they would go to these re-education camps, so to say, and when school basically breaks up, he would go back to open the Quran, where the Quran explicitly states that the whole world will be subjugated by Islam, and that Islam will only offer the world two choices: submit or die. So it's insanity to think that you can educate people while the source material that they read that drives them determines that they can never be re-educated. They can never ever, you see this. You look at Europe, you look at America, you look at wherever they do not assimilate. They do not assimilate into Western society. They create
didn't come to
enclaves.
assimilate, Justin. They didn't come to assimilate. They came to conquer.
Of course they did.
Western Europe is gone, completely gone. If you went there, you would see. And this, you cannot have deals with them. Like I say, to have a deal with the Muslim is like riding on the ice. That's it. When it's warm, the ice melts.
Well, it will be the same with this document on.
Of course.
The document of memorandum of misunderstanding, because the West is totally misunderstood.
Yeah, like I said before, I think it's a waste of time, this MOU. They've been having talks with the Iranians for months and months. All of a sudden, a piece of paper is not going to change a thing.
Well, again, it can't change a thing because there is nothing binding in that document, whether it's the Americans' document and the Iranians' document, and that it's been digitally signed and that we're going to have a signing ceremony. Or it's nonsense, because it's only a document that leads to further talks.
The Iranians only want one thing right now. Let me tell you, maybe two. But the first thing that they want is they want to lift up the sanctions and give them back the funds. They need the money desperately, because the money is for their way of gaining back the power, of gaining back and buying weapons. That's what they need. And I pray to God that they won't get it. That's what I pray to God, because if they do, Mark my words, they're going to be with this atomic committee. Oh, you cannot come here. You cannot enter. This is what they do. Liars, liars. That's Islam. Justin, I want to thank you. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you very much.